so bright.
Yeah, why is your flashlight on again?
Is it?
She likes to do that so you see spots. And
Like-
like, see here. Yeah.
It's to make you think you're in the spotlight.
I know.
Hey, lights, camera, action.
Do you need help?
Yeah. They're hobbling over here, shaking her head.
Tell you what.
It won't.
Oh,
There it is.
hello. Here.
There you go.
There it goes.
Where's your flashlight? It's
Off.
okay.
Was it on?
Yes.
No, we just see black spots right now.
Okay.
Are we live? We've been live. Scratching your nose and everything.
Oh, good.
So we're going to give you a brief update of our trip in Kenya. There's much more, and I've actually thought that we'll do maybe, if you guys want, we'll bring more of a sit down and plan it out, like maybe next Wednesday or something after class. But I know that there's some highlights that we want to share with you. So I'm going to let Melissa tell you all about Jolly Kids.
How do I make it brief? So I don't even know where to start. We were there pretty much every day, and just being there all day. Last time we just went once and fed them lunch, and that was it. This time we were able to be there the majority of one day, and then a little bit each day, and the needs are many. I had the opportunity to meet all the teachers and speak with them. They're all very near to my heart now. We found out a lot of things that were kind of discouraging. So there's 3 teachers and roughly 120 students. They meet, there's 2 buildings. There's the school and the church. And so they divide, the younger kids go to the school, and then grades 1 through 3 go to the church. And the teacher that teaches grades 1 through 3, she had malaria, so I didn't meet her until the second day, but she was still there. She was still really sick, but she was there. And we found out that the teachers for forever have been working just to get lunch. They've never received a wage. So they teach out of the kindness of their hearts, and which broke our hearts, because I don't know anyone that would do that. So these baskets, this is what they sell in order to make a wage.
We bought them all.
We bought them all because, of course. So we're selling them for $10 if anyone wants them. I don't know if they make them.
Yeah, the women in the church.
They do. I missed that part.
So
Yeah.
we're pulling them apart just to show
Yeah,
them.
and all the money will go back to Jolly Kids. All this money will all go back to Jolly Kids. There's only one little one because, well, there was 3, but Woodland and Shy each bought. Oh, is there 2 more little ones?
Oh, those are
Those
sweet.
are
Aren't they cute?
They are cute. I want one.
Oh, I want one.
So, oh good.
I feel so full today.
If we don't have cash, can we bring it in street?
Yes.
Of course. So, I mean, we were able to go, so I stood there going, we need to do this, and we need to do that, and we need to do blah, 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 and my mind was like, zzz. And, but I sat down with the pastor of the church, I sat down with the teachers, and we made lists. Okay, what is the most important thing? What do we need right now? So, I mean, these kids were using scraps of newspaper to write on. They didn't even have paper. They didn't have enough chairs. They don't have shoes. They don't have underwear. They don't have uniforms. They have nothing. One little boy, I only know because he had on a neon orange shirt. I mean, he had on that shirt every single day. And I asked, and of the 120 students, 70 of them are double orphans. So no mom, no dad. And so, I mean, where to begin? That was kind of where we were when we were at Jolly Kids. Like, where do we begin? So our next project is we are going to tear down the building and the church and build them a new building. Which won't be cheap, but we know, I mean, God provided the money for the water well in 5 weeks, so we're not really too concerned about that. But we were able, while we were there, we went shopping, and we bought them chairs, notebooks, pencils, crayons, what else did we buy? Cooking supplies, pots.
Because they were cooking and washing in the same pot, right?
Yes.
So.
Toilet brushes, which was kind of a funny story.
It is a funny story.
We're in the little market, and me and Mia, I always say that, Mia, have our list, and on there was toilet brushes. And so I'm walking, and I find one, right? I'm like, hey, so I take it to the guys, that were with us, they said, hey, I found toilet brushes. And they start laughing at me. And I'm like, it's a toilet brush. They said they needed that. And they said, not that kind of toilet brush. So they go around the corner, and there's these toilet brushes that are like this long with like these huge brushes. And I'm like, why would they need that? Squatty potties, you gotta.
Yeah.
So my little toilet brush wasn't gonna cut it. So one thing that we've realized is that they go through supplies very quickly. There's not a ton of structure there, and that's one thing I'm working with the teachers on rules and simple things like, the kids maul you to death because they're so excited and they're so happy, but they don't have manners. And partly it's because they go home and there's no structure. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to teach the teachers like simple stuff like they sit in their chairs quietly, and if they're not quiet, they don't get served lunch until they are. Keep your hands to yourselves. Simple stuff like that. Because what's happening is the supplies are just poof and they're gone. Whether they take them home or people steal them, we're not really sure. So one thing that we need to do until this building is done is take supplies over as often as we go. So just like we have the Tailored in Love Sewing Pantry, we're starting a school supply list for Jolly Kids. So it's simple things like primary journals, pencils, pencil sharpeners, crayons, educational coloring books. One thing that they need is those big educational charts. And we bought them some, but they need more. And so just simple things like that. So if you guys want to help with that, I'm pretty specific on what kind because they were specific with me on what they need. So I'll give all of you one of these, or if you know somebody, or like I have a teacher friend, and she was like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have known. I just threw out a ton of stuff. And so if you know any teachers that are going through their classrooms, anything, these kids are thrilled. We took this stuff and it was this pile, and the teachers were just crying, and they were so thankful, and they were just, they keep emailing me and just saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, we've needed this for so long, and no one has done it. And so just a small part of taking them paper goes a really long way. So yeah, that's my update.
And
Will you post that on?
Yes, I will. Mm-hmm.
And then Mom's going to keep it organized.
Yeah, so Graham is going to keep it organized. So, and if you're out and about and you see stuff and you don't know, just call me. I'm going to be kind of picky about it just because I know I saw what they need. So,
and we're going to do, like, of course they need clothes and shoes and
yes.
all that, but we're going to...
Yeah, so the tailoring school actually is sewing the Jolly Kids uniforms, which they're almost done, and they're so cute. But they need, like the pastor, he wants them to look like a real school, because what's happening is these kids are getting mocked a lot because they don't go to real school, even though they do, but they don't look like they do. So we want to get them uniform shoes and uniform socks and cardigans and all of these things. But we want to do it in phases. I don't want to bombard them with everything all at one time because I don't feel like they would take care of it very well. Plus, like a group before us had brought backpacks for every single kid. How many backpacks did we see? One?
Yeah, I think one or
So
two.
I asked Eric, I said, you were here when they gave the backpacks. Where are the backpacks? And he said, well, somebody might have stolen them, or they might have them at home, or so that clearly is not working. So in my head, I have envisioned in the new building like cubbies for the kids where they leave their stuff, even if they take off their uniform shoes and leave them at school. Something so that stuff stays nice because it's going through way too quickly.
But one thing that we were thinking that would be easy for us to take over that's a need is little underwear.
Mm-hmm. So in fact, my mother-in-law asked me, she said, can I do undie Sunday? And just like on a Sunday at church, have everybody bring undies, which I thought was kind of a cute idea. So yeah, that's a simple thing.
That we'll keep in the, because Michelle was just at Target and they had like clearance underwear. And so she called, and so we're trying to guess on the size. It's going to be, what did we decide,
I said
under 40?
probably like the smallest you can get, which would be probably like a 2T, I would imagine, to like, they have some 11-year-olds in the school. Our dream is for Jolly Kids to be able to go all the way through high school. I would love to see that happen. But right now, they have through grade 3. And our teacher Eunice said she has a couple of 11-year-olds, so even underwear as big as that.
But you have to understand, they're much smaller children. So we kind of were thinking maybe 40 pounds tops, right? Is that what we said?
No, I said 50 pounds. So yeah, so that's that. And I did see my little Philip many times, but he has a mom. I was so happy to find that out.
Aww.
So yes, she was very sweet. She helps at the school pretty often, so I got to see them a lot. So I'll hand these around if you guys want to take one.
So then that's why he was hanging out there and you didn't realize that she was there or whatever, but he probably feels very comfortable there at the school because that's where she works.
Definitely. And I don't know that I don't think she's employed. I think she just kind of comes. There's a lot of the moms in the village that come just to help. I mean, because their kids get to go there for free. And so, I mean, that's a big deal to them.
And see, and I was even thinking, instead of she's the one that has the degree, right? That she could be like the head mistress, and maybe she could.
So that's kind of what I'm hoping. And Pastor Joseph, that works at the church there, he wants that. He wants the teachers to get further at training, so that they can do. I mean, because these poor girls are just doing the best they can.
So if we have like teacher education books that would help them teach, that would help too.
Yes, and even
I would have you come shop in my shed.
I would love to. And even if there's anyone you know that would be willing to help these teachers along the way, I mean.
Do you know anybody?
I already told you.
I know. So
It's pretty cool how God just opens up doors, though. And He knew before we were even going to go. It's just amazing.
and you'll love these teachers. Oh my gosh, they're sweet as pie. And one of them, Florence, she's kind of the head teacher. She's telling me that she's been having really bad chest pains, so we need to pray for her too. And I asked her, I said, is it just now? And she said, no, I always do. It comes and goes.
She may have AFib due to stress.
Oh, I can't
imagine that.
I took suckers one day. I thought I was gonna die. They were all just like, ah! And so Eric, he yelled at him and he got them all in line and he pointed his finger at them, and so they all just.
They're like this.
And that's what the school needs to teach.
Yes, and that's what I told Eunice, and she said, I know there's a lot of behavioral problems, and I said, but you can start working on that. Don't let them control the school.
Learn how to learn.
They're 5, you put them in line. So hopefully it'll be a little bit better by the time I go back. We'll see.
We hope.
So we'll tag team now on the water.
Yes.
We were going to fly out on Friday, and Jared called on Thursday and said, the drillers are ready. We need to pray, because they were waiting for us to pray over the property. So he said, can you pray on the phone?
Because the driller said, they can pray on the phone. We're ready.
Yeah. So we did. We prayed over the telephone, and 30 hours later we landed. They picked us up and told us there were water droplets.
At 60 meters.
Yeah. And so it was a Sunday. We'd already told Pastor Joshua that we would, go to church. So we ran to Jared's. We'd already dressed for church. We were already ready. So we threw our bags, went to church, did church, which was great. And on the way over, on the airplane, it was like, so what? Because, they were going to have me teach. So what should we teach on? So I thought, I'm going to do Ephesians, the armor of God. We're going to go off that and really hit hard on, having the sword of the Spirit and knowing the truth. So we get to church, we get out. Well, he's doing Sunday school, teaching on sword of the Spirit, the armor of God.
We were all just like, is that planned?
Okay.
So Mia leaned over and she's like, did they talk about that? I was like, I don't think so.
And it was really amazing just to see God, how he's bringing this group of people together, binding our hearts with their hearts, and the direction for these people. And I mean, it even gets better than that as far as with Pastor Joshua, but I'll tell you that in a minute. So then we left, went back, threw our clothes on, and Jared and the 3 of us head out for Jolly Kids. And so we weren't even there, and we were at the Y. There's a Y, and you turn and you go left, and you tell about the guy in the car. He stopped, and they're talking. And we're not even to the well site yet. And he goes, they hit water.
Oh, what?
one of the drillers. They were running into town. Remember we sat there and they're talking back and forth, blah, 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 blah?
No, I don't remember that
Okay,
at all.
well. And he said, they've already hit water. So we get there and water is coming
Gushing out of the hole.
And
the kids were playing because they used that drilling foam and they were covered in head to toe in foam.
So much stuff was.
So it's
Drilling
something that they
foam.
use to, what did Kurt say?
It's to cut through the dirt.
Oh,
stuff.
the contamination. It cuts through the contamination. And so, I mean, I don't know what was in that foam, but they didn't care. They were covered in head to toe in
Well,
foam.
worse than anything that they have on a daily basis.
And we drive up and there's just all these people because it's a
Pond.
Sunday.
Yeah.
So all the village people, all the kids, they're all there, and it was just, they're cheering and we're crying, and they're just, I mean, because they've prayed for water since the creation of the world.
And Jared just kept saying that these people have been without water since the creation of the earth. And he said, they say that knowledge is power. And he said these people have lived without knowledge of knowing that water was literally 80 meters below their feet. But they don't know.
So we spent days there. We have to tell this funny story as they wanted to celebrate. And so Jared asked us if we could pay $100 and it would provide the food to have a celebration. Sure. So we're in a group of people, and you have to understand, they talk English, but they don't talk a lot of English. So we're 3 white girls standing there, and they're having a very heated discussion. We're standing there, and pretty soon
And
this
Jared's
guy,
laughing.
yeah, this guy, and then this guy, I'm sorry. And pretty soon you can tell they're arguing with one another. So pretty soon this guy storms off, he leaves. So we're like, So anyway, we get in the car, and I say to Jared, they were in a fight, huh? He starts laughing. Well, this guy wanted to butcher a goat. This guy wanted to butcher a ram. The ram won, we ate eem.
Eem.
You can all learn that. Eem. That'd be a ram. And so the next day we went, and we go under this tree to watch them drilling, and right there is the little eem all tied up.
Just eating away, happy. Mia goes, eat up, bud. It's your last meal. So then our driver, Amos, he was with us the whole day, and this man walked over, and he has this huge machete.
The one that had lost the fight about the goat. He wanted the goat.
So he comes over, and him and Amos are talking, and so the guy's like, okay. So he unties the ram, and he starts leading him away. And we go, it's time, isn't it, Amos? And he goes, no, he's just taking him behind the house to graze. We're like, you're such a liar.
We never seen him. Well, we did see him.
Yeah, we didn't see him yet.
He showed up for dinner.
He was present. But I would tell you that it was absolutely delicious.
It was
It was. It was good.
And not the boiled. I don't like
Yeah, they fried it and they boiled it, and they do soup. They call it soup because they have a lot of broth. And they make a thing. We watched the ladies all day grinding their corn, and they make what's called ugali. And
Melissa's favorite.
on the
love
table
Yeah.
was a thing of ugali, Rebecca.
Oh,
It was about this
Love
big
it.
around, and it was
So
about
good.
this tall. And just steam coming out. And so they put that on your plate, and
they give you huge pieces.
we had said, you guys, we have to try it. I don't care if you hate it, you have to try it. And then we were going back for seconds. It was so delicious.
And there's chicken too.
There was chicken, and
Kales and cabbage and
it was beautiful. And
Yeah, they're good meals on kale.
so they're
Kales.
So they served us lunch, and it was very humbling. But they're so thankful that they never thought that this moment would come.
Not in their lifetime.
And
How many times have they had the promise?
2 other
That's
times
right.
for sure. In fact, one of the times so there's watersheds. How many?
2.
No, I know, but how far away?
One of them 700 meters, and then the farthest one was the 2. At the beginning of the village is 1, and then you go quite a ways, maybe 1,000 meters is the second shed.
And so there will be piping from the well to those two, and then piping to Jolly Kids. So someone had come in, put in the 2 watersheds, drilled a hole at Jolly Kids. I mean, that's right outside the school, and it was dry. And so that was, how long ago did he say? Like 8 years ago? 10 years ago?
And then somebody was supposed to 4 years ago, and
And then that never
That
happened.
never happened.
And so I think that they were very skeptical of these 3 white girls coming in, like, oh, we're going to drill us a water well. And they were like,
and we were like acting all authoritative.
Sure.
We'd have our clipboards and be like watching them drill, counting pipe. They would be like,
they were probably like, whatever.
if there was something that I didn't quite get, I would call Chad. And this one night I called him, and she goes, "It's 3:30 in the morning. I don't care. You're welding the pipe."
Calling him, I'm like, Mom, he's sleeping.
But it's pretty neat though, because between the 2 watersheds, it's already piped.
Yes.
So that saved us a bunch of money. And through the course of everything, there's enough money to do phase 2, which is actually the wellhead to the first watershed, which will connect all of that, and enough money for the piping to Jolly Kids and the pump and the solar. They will be having water
Very
very
soon.
soon.
And fencing, right?
Yes.
It's all included.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So this one water well will give water to 10,000 people.
Wow.
And Jared's already like, so on our next one, we're going to do, I'm like, okay.
He keeps going, it's a God-sized project. It's a God. And we're like, yep, it is. And so
It's awesome.
it is. So, and then we, tailoring school, one thing is the flooding. The flooding in Kenya right now is so horrible. And so the tailoring schools actually had to move inside to the government building, and thank goodness we have the government building. But they moved the tent from one side to the other side, but the mud, and the houses are getting ruined there because the flooding is eating away, the outside or whatever. So, but these kids, I mean, when we were there in March and did the launch, we took those pictures that are on the wall, and we would say, smile, smile, and they won't look in the eye. We walked in, the 3 of us, and they were just like, ah! and all they could say over and over and over again was, you changed our life. This changed our life. This changed our life. And I had the greatest opportunity to talk to them when I stayed with them one day by myself. They went to Jolly Kids, and then I stayed at the school all day. So I could kind of get a feel for, how it works, what they do. And they're very in-depth right now in the book of John. And we were standing outside, and they were sharing with me their hearts. They were all gathered around me, and they're talking. And they're telling me about how they never thought they would have hope. They never thought they would be given this opportunity. They'll be able to feed their children. They'll be able to provide for their parents. Some of them have to take care of their elderly parents. And I said to them, one thing though, you guys, I said, that is the basis. That is what we want to accomplish. We want to train you to learn how to do that. We want to show you how to care for that. We want you to have all the tools you need. But the in-depth Bible study is absolutely the most important element, because if you miss Jesus, the school failed. And his hand goes up, got real teary, and said, Mom, Sheridy, all of us are going to be in heaven with you one day. So you see, it's working. The need is great. But when you step in to provide a physical need, the spiritual door is wide open. And that's happened the same with the water well. Water came from where it's not supposed to be. Only God could have brought the water from where he brought it from. And it's opened wide this door for us to say, but the water, you need the living water. And so it's just amazing. And even men are listening to us. And it was funny because we drove up on Thursday as we were leaving, doing our checks. Well, we got back to the rig and they had capped it off. And everything was pretty much picked up and they were getting ready to go. So we ran over to get a picture. So we turn and we tell the drillers, come on. And you have to understand, we I mean, we talked to them a little bit, but, I mean, they really were just looking at us most of the time like, who are these women, you know?
Women telling us why.
And so they all come over and they're like, us? I said, you guys drilled the well. We just stood here. You drilled the well. Yes, you get over in this picture. And they're like grinning from ear to ear, all bold in the picture. But when we left here, we prayed that we would get to see a little bit of water that we could bring back to you guys. God not only did that, it's done. And the money's there. These people will literally have water, and we got to witness it. And I think that it's so incredible because our ministry says every dollar goes to accomplish what we say. And I just thought it was such an incredible thing that God allowed that, because less than a week after Inspire, they already hit water. And so I just think because of that, again, more of you buckle your seatbelt, because we don't even have a clue what's going to happen. And so one of the things about the tailoring school, though, is a need, like now, is we need to raise the ground and make a hard floor. So because they're in a government building, and while that's a blessing that they can still use it, the problem is that it's a government building. So if somebody's using it, they can't have class, or there's constantly people in and out. It's loud. So we need to make the tent permanent. So Jared's getting a cost on that, which it probably won't be very much, a couple $1,000s maybe. And then that will make that be a permanent classroom for those students. So our big push now that we feel extremely that we need your guys' help with. I don't know if all of you do Facebook, but if you do, when we post things, can you guys share them? Help us get it going, really share over and over and over, because what we're pushing for now is sponsorships. Because we have about, only half of the students are sponsored, and then Jolly Kids we need about 35 people to sponsor the monthly amount. Now in Jolly Kids you're not sponsoring a child.
You can pick one and pretend.
Yeah. You know, but what we're hoping is
But
that
you're sponsoring it as a whole.
as a whole, you're sponsoring Jolly Kids as a whole. The tailoring school, a lot of people are giving a certain amount of money that's sponsoring a few kids, but we can put a person to that if you want. But what we need is if we can cover those two monthly costs, in a nutshell, $2,000 at each place, that provides their lunch and their schooling and pays the staff. Then the rest of the money that we collect can go to taking care of these needs and making Jolly Kids a school that goes through high school. Make a kitchen that's not condemned. Make bathrooms that are, you know what I'm saying? Because right now, Shadow of His Wings takes care of almost all the Jolly Kids monthly support, and then about half of the tailoring school. And not only on that now, the missionary journey, the women's missionary journey is growing. We're going to do 3 conferences when we go back. We have a core of 3 pastors already. Pastor Joshua, we didn't get to work with him, but he came and we spoke for quite a while because he wanted to share with me a vision. Well, I needed to talk to him as well about how we have a local pastor that wants to step up. This happened right before we left because he wants to work with the men. Because you see, you can do everything you can possibly, and you can have a whole church filled with women accept the Lord and want to live for the Lord, but that doesn't mean that the pastor supports the husband of one wife, because there's a lot of pastors that don't. I mean, one of the biggest cults in Awasi, or Jolly Kids, is polygamy. And so we have to break that cultural stronghold in order to make the women's things thrive. So what we felt before we left was God was saying, okay, let's do that. And if this pastor would come on board from here and do a pastoral training there, starting with, if it's only with the 3 pastors we have, which is Pastor Joshua, which is Pastor Peter, who's the pastor at our school, and then Pastor Joseph, who's the pastor with Jolly Kids. Even if you started with those 3, then he'll come over and do training, And because they're all three on board, all of the Bible, 100%. But then that would grow, and then we could work within these women and building these women's ministries within each churches, and then it will grow. So I'm sharing with him all of that, and he stands there and he makes this really awesome face. He goes like that, and he's like, and he throws his head back and he goes, "The Holy Spirit is the Holy Spirit," and his vision is exactly that, and he's already started working with a small handful of pastors, and so everything's coming together. And so we just stood there crying, just like, because it's just amazing to hear God's voice, and then halfway around the world, the same thing, the same direction, and here we go. And so that will entail Bibles. So we need to push for Bibles, people to get Bibles. We left a box of Bibles with Jolly Kids. Pastors, they didn't have any. And he was going to present it to the teachers and everything on Sunday at church. It was pretty neat to give them that. So lots of stuff is happening, and that's it in a nutshell. But if you guys want, we can do pictures next week. I can put something together. We could do it after class for anybody who wants to stay. Okay? So anybody have a question, or does anybody have any comment about anything else? I mean, so many things happened. I can't even.
I know somebody asked me the other day, what was the highlight? And I was like,
What day?
The water.
I know. It was all.
You know, you want to say
So
it was
more emotional trip, I think, than
we-
the previous.
We cried a lot.
We cried a lot. Melissa got to see more of Mia's tears than.
And the need is great, but we need to stay, you know, that's why we're making lists. You know, we could take 5 million things to Jolly Kids. Problem number 1, getting it there. And so God has made it very clear, start at the bottom. Start where I tell you, let's do that first. Let's go here. Because what's really awesome is drilling the wells phase 1. But enough money came in for phase 1, phase 2, and now on to phase 3. And even with the building, with the money that we have left, we can maybe even start that. We got to talk about it, but there's just, it's all there.
Who's the local?
Oh, my dress. I'm sorry.
Adoyo says you look very smart.
David Flores at the Journey Church.
What about Sagebrush? I haven't heard anything about this at Sagebrush.
No, you're not really allowed to push anything that's not a sagebrush thing.
Why can't it be a Sagebrush?
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
May I say something? I had 2 ladies that I work with on Thursdays just gave me money to give for the water well. But when I showed them the pictures last Thursday, I said they've already hit water. Look, they were so excited because they actually saw what they were helping do, and I don't think they realized the poverty level and how desperate these people were. So if you have people who supported the Inspire and stuff, show them those pictures, because people don't realize in our world today that we have people that just are still living hand to mouth with very little.
Absolutely. And Kurt is working right now making a video about the well, so that'll be neat to be able to show everyone who gave. That'll be really cool.
And we're going to send out a letter, a general letter. We're talking about that after class today, but I've kind of put together a general letter, and to do more of an update, that's going to be our job. And that's where everybody can help us. You know, if we post something on, I'm trying to get better at Instagram. Melissa's trying to teach an old lady how to do something. I did something the other day, I put it, because she said, you got to put hashtags. So I did. So she texts me and she goes, Mom, you need to put a space between those. Okay, I don't know how to do all that. But the more that we talk about it, the more that it'll grow. The more that you share the excitement, the more that it'll grow. And that's just, even the guy, I had a guy was at my house looking at my yard on Monday, and I was talking, and he said, oh, your mom said you went to Africa. Oh yeah, let me just tell you about what happened over there. And he was just, it's easy. It's easy because this really happened. We're not raising money now for a water well. We We raised the money, we went, there's water gushing out. Now what else can we do? And so if you guys will just help us, like, share it, tell, whatever we have to get out there. And Kelly just reminded me about my dress. So this is my dress from the tailoring school. And as you know that we brought bags, we had them ship over bags. We sold all the bags. They're actually making us more bags that we'll bring home in August. And they're getting better and better by the day. But they wanted to make us dresses. So they made Mia one, she has hers on. Melissa got 2 skirts. My dress, they made Shia, well, they made our grandkids each a dress, but they got mixed up on whose was whose, and so Woodland's was bigger than mine. So I'm going to measure her and get her measurements. But in one day, we went to the market, and we got back the next evening, and the very next day we were leaving, and so we went, and they were already started on your material they had, right?
And mine.
And theirs, so they had already started working on theirs. So they started working, and they're just concentrating so hard. And there's a girl, and one of our students, his name is Mary Ann, and she's had to be pulled from where she was living because she was being abused because of being in school and bettering her life. And so we pay one of the cooks to house her. Well, when we were there at the launch, she really saddled up to Melissa. Just, they had pictures of each other together. So here we were against this time, and right away clings to Melissa. Well, I had thought that we were taking care of a different one.
Named Anne.
Named Anne, yeah.
But it was Mary Ann. We were confused.
And then through talking with the pastor, we realized that it was this girl who's attached herself to Melissa. And she asked Melissa, "Do you love me?" And so this dress is sewn with so much love poured in. And we can give back to them. I told Adoyo, the teacher, today, I said, "I'm wearing a dress to teach a class today." And he said, "I never in my whole life thought that I would have a dress of mine be in the United States of America." And I said,
I sent him a picture. He said, "You look very smart."
Yes, she does.
and
Smarter than when you were there, he said.
That's really what he said.
but I told him, I said, "I bet you that everyone in my class will have a dress made by you." I said, "But I need to actually go to the tailoring school because I don't know how to measure them." And so he's going to teach me how to measure tomorrow.
Yeah, I could probably do it. I was watching them pretty close.
So if anybody would like
We
a
all
dress,
want one.
I want skirts for my girls for Christmas.
then you know what? We need to
Awesome.
get the measurements. I will send them to Adoyo, and when we go in August, we will bring them back.
Oh, nice.
Because I guarantee you that there's nothing been made that's... They just started and they made this. It's overwhelming to me. I feel like, you tell him, I feel like the most beautiful woman in the world.
I will tell him.
It fits you awesome.
Yeah.
It's Kenya Couture.
It's made for a woman with broad shoulders. That's what they told me. We have broad shoulders, but at least I don't have a full bottom. They didn't do it. They did a fashion show. For those, some of you heard, when I got there and I stayed the whole day, they wanted to show me. They wanted to show me. They wanted to show me how they were all the stuff they've been made. Hey, Mia, come here. So they gave us a fashion show, okay? And so 2 people would come up and they would each took a turn and they each had on their clothes that they had made. Okay.
Okay, I don't want to
Stay right
flash
there.
anybody.
Stay right there. So we would stand like this. Can you see both of us?
No.
No, Mia, come in.
Just to where you can see her.
A little more. A little more. There you are.
Okay. Okay, so we would stand clear across the room, and so she would take a turn. Go ahead and model your dress for me. Come on. Do you follow me?
Chesty.
That's what they said.
That's what he said. So then this one on this one would say, now this woman is wearing and I don't know their words. Doyle's probably going to be like
High-waisted.
yeah, high-waisted, sleeveless,
Tall.
you know,
Whatever.
and it's made to flatter someone with a very large top.
I got that.
And as you can see, she has very little stride because she's so short. And so we made the skirt wide so she can take big steps. Okay, now my turn.
Looking good. I don't know what they said. What they say, you had broad shoulders.
I have broad shoulders.
We weren't there.
They didn't say I didn't have a dress on. We're just practicing what they did to us.
You're tall.
And it can make me have big steps.
There
That's
you
very
go.
important to them because they wear very fitted stuff.
Yeah,
you know, where
they
you
were
have to
very
walk
fitted.
like-
I know, they had a hard time with this because I wanted something that went this way. I didn't want it like this because all their dresses are very tight. I'm sorry.
So they must have watched you walk to know you have a long stride, let's make her skirt bigger because
Yes.
that's not how you walk.
Right.
So if you
But
walk
we
like
love
this,
them.
Yes.
We love them.
They're adorable. Precious.
And I think I need to wear mine to church Sunday.
All right.
To play?
I might to play.
We'll see
Yeah,
if we get a
and
change
that
over
was a
mine.
long
Mine's a little
conversation.
big up here.
And then Melissa had one, and hers had a little bolero top. And because she's so tiny, they were able to get two skirts.
Well, they said I was fat.
Yeah, they told her she was fat.
You are not.
They're really going to love me, aren't they?
But I think what she meant, because the skirt was a little bit big on me, and so I think she was saying the skirt was fat. I'm hoping that's what she meant, because if not, I'm really offended.
Because some of their words you don't know. It's like we were in this bookstore and buying all the stuff for Jelly Kids. Well, we had been in there once before when we were there buying stuff, and they were charging us like a lot of money because we're buying from America.
Mia did not want to shop
So she
there.
didn't want to go back there. You remember that bookstore one? So we go back
And
in.
Adoyo insisted that's where we went.
So we go in there. Well, pretty soon she's throwing in stuff for free because she remembered us. And so she gave extra books, extra tablets, all this stuff, all for free, and putting it in. And so he comes over and he goes, she's very smart. And I go, you're not kidding, because she knows we'll come back, and buy more stuff. And he's looking at me like.
And so I told her, I said, that's not the kind of smart he means. Smart to them means like cool or awesome. Or,
And I was just like, so sometimes when they look at you like that. We were talking in the car, and I said, why is it that you can talk English to all the students and they understand you, but when I talk English, you have to interpret? And Eric says, well, it's because you have an accent. I go, I don't have an accent. Mia has an accent.
I'm never going to go.
You'll never know what you say.
Once again, there's no interpretation. Hello, hey y'all. It's all right, y'all.
we were making fun, and so then we were all making fun of Mia, like, I need a sweet tea, and they were just laughing.
So you have to be kind of careful, and we have such a great relationship with them. They're helping us to say words right, or tell us we're saying words wrong. Like Eric's, we're walking, and he says, "Yeah, I need to get me a ship." I go, "Why?" I said, "Why do you want to get a ship? I don't understand. You don't need a ship. Where are you going to go?" And he goes, "No, a ship." I said, "I heard you." Sheep. And when I realized that, I was like, because I said, "Why do you want to get a ship for?" He goes, "Well, because then they'll have a baby one, and then you can sell it."
These names.
It was just like, oh, so the language barrier, while we're building such a relationship, they're helping us, so it's pretty great. So. All right, let's go to chapter 1. We could talk for hours, but I need to get you guys on a track of observing the book as a whole. And I want to give you some pointers. So what I want you to do is I want you to pull out your chart. Excuse me. Your chart on the author and the recipients, because they wanted you to write lists. Okay? So your paper, I want you to get in the habit of, so here's your chart. And when you write down what they're wanting you to do is this, so you marked Paul in one color, and you marked the recipients in another color. And by doing those two things, you can use this very chart to show you what all your keywords are mostly. And what I want you to do is get in the habit of, okay, verse 1, or chapter 1, verse 1. You put it over to the side. And it's Paul is a bondservant of Jesus. Okay, I want you to do that when you're writing the facts about things, because it's very important when we come back. Now then, if you were to take they also told you what some of the key words are. They told you joy and rejoice, and they told you what else? Christ, and one more. What'd you say? Mind. Your mind. Okay, so they told you those to help you. But then it says they want you to write the rest of your keywords. And so I know sometimes that might be a little difficult. Writing chapter themes, I know you guys struggle with that a little bit as well. So I'm going to show you a cheat way to figure it out. Now on the board I have written only chapter 1, okay? And I only pulled out some of them, okay? I didn't write all of them. And sorry I started big and crammed. Sorry about that. So when you're looking at your author and recipients thing, okay? You would highlight the words they've already told us. So they've already told us what? Rejoice. So rejoice. So you would go through, let's just say we did red and rejoice. So you would color it. Is that all? Yeah. Okay, now remember, this isn't all of the facts. I'm just pulling out the ones to show you how to do it. Okay, what else? Mind. Was there any in mind? I don't think there was any in chapter 1 about the mind. No. Okay, so then, let's read through these. Paul prays for Philippians with joy. Oh, joy, there was no. Joy and rejoice were the same thing, okay? Tells them to rejoice. Philippians participate in the gospel. Paul in prison, defense of the gospel. Paul prays for Philippians to be found blameless. His circumstances further the gospel. Paul in prison. Paul defends the gospel. Paul rejoices. Jesus proclaimed. Philippians pray for Paul. Paul has earnest expectation and hope. To live as Christ, to die as gain. Philippians suffering, experiencing conflict. Conduct themselves worthy of the gospel. What's a word that's used a ton of times?
Gospel.
Gospel. So gospel is going to be a key word. So then we're going to go and we're going to circle every single one that you see gospel in a different color. Okay. What's another one? Praise. Praise. Very good. So you're going to do praise in a different one.
So did you combine the author and the recipients on that list right there?
No.
This is just for Paul.
I think. Oh no, I did all of chapter 1. Yeah, I combined it both.
So okay.
But you and I just did it for saving, squishing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Because see, you can do it the same on your.
Yeah.
Okay. So pray. Is that it? Okay. What else? There's 2 more.
Suffer, persecution.
Yep, suffering and persecution. So, imprisoned. Suffering. Conflict. Okay. Now then, we've already done Jesus. I think he's on here. Here we go. So you've already been told to do that. Okay.
5.
Did I miss another one?
21.
Oh yeah. Okay. Now then, what would be another word? There's two other words that are not used a bunch of times in here. They're each only used once. But if you read through these as a whole, because you're seeing where the most of the words, the key words are that are used in these verses, okay? So what would be the thing? He's praying for them. They're having extreme conflict. He's in prison. They're having conflict. He's talking about rejoicing and being joyful, okay? And what is verse 21? He's an earnest expectation and hope. He's writing to them because he has a hope. A hope of what? What's his hope in writing this letter? That they would be found
Blameless.
blameless. So blameless is actually a key word. It's not found a bunch of times, but he's writing to them for a reason. He's writing to them to encourage them. He's writing to them to tell them about himself. He's writing to them to tell them to pray for him. He's writing to them to tell them that this is happening to me and I'm filled with joy. This is happening to you. You need to be a certain way in your life. You need to be found full of joy. And so if you're to do that, there's one more word in here that is how they're supposed to live. So live is actually a key word as well. Okay? Because he's writing to them about you. So do you see that he's suffering? They ask you to find out the historical setting, right? Okay. What is the historical setting?
Persecution of the church.
Persecution of the church. And you can get that all from your author and recipient lists. If you didn't get it before that, you can see that there is persecution happening. So your historical information would be that persecution is happening then. Okay, there is persecution of the church then. Now then, does anybody have a thought or comment on that? If you look at your recipient paper on chapter 2, you should have seen in verse 15, the Philippians, a fact. Let me back up. When you're writing facts about, when they tell you, write down what you learn about the author or the recipient, you wouldn't necessarily write down, hold on, let me get, let's just look at chapter 1. In verse 1, it says, Paul and Timothy, bondservants of Christ Jesus, to all the saints in Christ Jesus who are in Philippi, including the overseers and deacons. What's the fact about Paul in verse 1?
Bondservant.
He's a bondservant. Very good. What's the fact about the saints?
In Philippi.
They're in Philippi and they're in Christ Jesus by us. Okay, so they're believers. Okay, that's a fact. Verse 2, grace to you, who's that? To you is the Philippians. And peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. What's the fact about the Philippians?
What'd you say?
What's the fact about the Philippians in verse 2?
In Christ.
There isn't one.
Grace and peace.
No, there's no fact about them. He's praying to them, grace to you and peace from God. He's praying this over them, but there's no fact about the Philippians. So when you're doing your chart, you wouldn't write anything down from verse 2. What I'm trying to show you is that we get too bogged down in details we don't need. When you're writing down this list like this, you're just writing the fact about them. Okay, that will help simplify your life and it will help simplify observing. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, all right. So now then I want to go, I wanted to do that. And what else did I want to do? Okay, so I want you to get your chapter 1 paper out because I want to show you how I do, chapter titles. All right. On your paper, if you look, you see verses 1 and 2, and then you see verse 3. The number 3 is darkened, right? So that means verses 1 and 2 have a thought, all right? And so, since I don't have verse 1 and 2 up here, because there was really, I didn't want to write everything. So I go over here, I've written stuff, okay? So then I do a little thing like this. What is the summary of verses 1 and 2?
Greetings and blessings.
Yeah, greetings. Okay? All right. Now then, now we go from verse 3 down to 11. So we look on here. So here would be the end of my 11 right here. From here. Okay, so what would be some things that kind of summarize that right there? Now remember, look at your key words. Because the key word, you wouldn't summarize this in saying, oh, Philippians are participating in something. Okay, participation is not a key word. So look at your key words. We've got rejoicing in the gospel. We've got blameless. We've got that they're praying. And we have blameless. So what would this be as a summary, very simply, for that?
Gospel preached.
I'm sorry?
Gospel preached.
Yes. What else? What's something that's very evident? Remember, we're looking for, as a whole, what's very evident?
Prayer.
And there we've got imprisonment. So we've got, because why do you think knowing Paul is in prison is important?
He's not there.
He's suffering, but what is he trying to get them to see?
His joy.
Very good. So his joy in his imprisonment. So we've got to see his joy in his imprisonment. He's wanting
in his circumstances.
Correct. And he's calling them to be filled with joy themselves. Okay? So he's praying for them. He's imprisoned. And what does he want them to be found?
Blameless.
Very good. So found, blameless. Okay, what's the next segment division? Verses 12 through what?
26.
26. Oh yeah, I was like, where's 26? Oh wait.
27.
Well, 27 is the next one. So it's through 26. So I'm going to go down to right here, and I have 27 and 29 backwards, but so we're going to go to right here. Okay? Okay. So we have, what do we have? We have more about his circumstances. What are his circumstances? He's in prison. Furthering what? The gospel. Oh, he's in prison. Defending the gospel. What's he doing? Rejoicing. And the Philippians are praying for him. And Paul has an earnest expectation and hope. This is helping you see why he's writing this letter. Okay? So how would you summarize this little area? Again, he's in prison, right? It doesn't have to be different than what you've already written.
In prison, rejoicing.
Rejoicing and the gospel. Yep. Jesus is proclaimed. Right? Okay. Then, what's our last division? It'll be 27 through 30, so it's going to be the end. And there, what do we see? We see where he says he's suffering. There's conflict. Conduct yourself worthy of the gospel. Why is he writing the letter again? To encourage them. They're suffering. He wants them to be rejoicing. And so how would we do that? He's telling them, conduct yourself worthy.
With one mind.
One mind, good.
Standing firm in the spirit.
Okay. One mind with who?
Jesus.
What's he telling them? He's telling them to follow my example, right? Okay, so then you're going to look at what you have going on right here. And so then you go back to your at-a-glance chart, because what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to give chapter 1 a title. And I know that you all struggle with that. So now what we do is we're going to get rid of all this in our mind, and we're going to look at these things. He's grieving reading to them. He has joy in his imprisonment. He wants them to be found blameless. Okay? He's rejoicing in his imprisonment. Jesus is proclaimed, and he's telling them to conduct yourselves in the same way. So how can you put these four things together? We can actually, we can get rid of greetings because that doesn't. So what would be you want it at a glance, what would remind you of what this is about? Chapter 1. What's repeated? Remember, it's repeated in these three things.
Joy in all circumstances.
Joy in all circumstances. So let's start up though. Because what are our circumstances?
He's in prison.
Okay,
Paul.
so you've got Paul in prison, rejoicing in all circumstances. And what's the one last thing?
The gospel is proclaimed.
Very good. Jesus is proclaimed, or gospel, either one. Rejoicing in all circumstances, and Jesus is proclaimed. Do you guys kind of see how you can simplify it a little bit? Did that simplify it, or do you guys are all like staring? It takes practice. But sometimes we get ourselves in a bind because you read through it. And let's just say you've never read Philippians before. And you read all 4 chapters of Philippians, and you read it and you're like, where do I start? Where do I start? Because we're trying to come up with a total theme for the book. Now then, let's come up with the purpose. Did anybody get a purpose of the letter?
To encourage.
To encourage them to do what?
To remain joyful and confident.
Very good. He's encouraging them. He's telling them, press on. Press on and be filled with joy, okay? So that's very good. There's also a warning in there, and then we'll get to that when we talk about it later, because I didn't write, I think it's chapter 4. 3 or 4. Okay? But he's writing to them because conflict is happening, suffering is happening, and they have to be ready, and they have to be prepared for what's coming. But he's telling them, I'm hoping to send, was it Timothy? To you, okay? Who came to Paul from Philippians? Philippi, I guess. Because they brought a gift back, right? So they've been together. He says, you're the only ones that are helping me. You're encouraging me. And so now I'm going to write back and encourage you. So the purpose was for him actually to thank them for that and to encourage them to stand firm through the persecution. So again, what's the historical setting? Persecution of the church. So we have those quite concrete. We have chapter 1 that Paul's in prison. He's rejoicing that Jesus is proclaimed. So do you guys kind of see a little bit? So here's what I want you to do. You should have already finished all of week 1. But I want you to go back this week as you're working on week 2. And I want you to make sure that you've kind of done this with chapters 2, 3, and 4 as well. Because then next week what we're going to do is we're going to finish up chapters 2, 3, and 4. And we'll do lesson 2. Well, we'll start on lesson 2. We may have to bump the rest of it till the week after. But I want us to get it all. Plus you have an extra week to do what we just did. You have that extra week over the 4th. So maybe that's when you would want to go back and work on it. But we're going to go over the rest of it next week. Okay, so I'm going to just make sure that I got everything. So we know for sure who the author is, right? Okay, Paul. Did anybody have a guess at what the whole entire book's theme is?
Stand firm in their faith.
Stand firm in their faith. Very good.
That's joy and confidence in Christ.
Joy and confidence in Christ. That's very good. Anybody else have anything else?
To have joy and the attitude of Christ Jesus.
Good. Okay? Because we have this rejoice, right? And I also feel like that as he's calling them to rejoice in the Lord always, he's also giving them the challenge to walk in a manner worthy. Okay, so that can go together. All right, how about, let's see, why, I already did why. What was the other guy with Paul? Timothy and Epaphroditus. Yep.
I don't know how to say it.
Epaphroditus.
You.
Okay. Let's see. I want to just make sure that I did everything. So chapter 1 gives us pretty much detail on the imprisonment of Paul, right? He talks that him and Timothy are bondservants, and he uses joy in verse 4. That's the first one, and he's thanking God for them. So he's constantly praying. What's he focusing on? His imprisonment? No. He's focusing on his joy. Okay? So that he's telling them, don't focus on your circumstance, focus on the Lord. In verses 21 through 26 on your observation worksheet, where's Paul's complete focus? And what's the verse that shows you that?
Me to live as Christ and to die as gain.
Very good. To live as Christ, to die as gain. So he's focusing on the Lord. Where he's living right now, he's in prison, he's being persecuted, but Jesus Christ is gain. And so verse 21, you need to highlight that, you need to mark that, because that's a very key verse as we're going through. Why was it necessary for him to keep living? He says,
So that he can remain the flesh necessary for their sake.
yes, what did someone else say?
So he could keep encouraging them.
It's the example.
Keep speaking the gospel.
Exactly. It'd be much easier to go to heaven. I'll be exactly where he wants to be, right? But he's saying, but I'm called to be here because I'm called to further the gospel. And if he's set in prison with a woe is me, with a blanket over his head, focusing on his circumstance, he would not be used by the Lord to further the gospel, right? Okay, so how does chapter 1 end? What does it show you? The end of chapter 1.
He suffers for Christ's sake.
To remain on the flesh for your sake. Why their sake? Because that they're suffering as well. So for him to show them the joy of the Lord in his suffering encourages them in their suffering, okay? All right, and it says we're to strive together with one mind for the gospel. So that's chapter 1. And so next week we'll hit chapter 2. We won't do this again. You guys will already have done all of this. And maybe you've already done that. But we'll kind of go over, we'll review 2, chapter 3 and 4, get our at-a-glance chart filled out completely, and then we'll go on to lesson 2. We'll get as far as we can, okay? Alrighty, so if we'll pray and we'll be done. Thank you guys for letting us talk fast about Kenya. Here's the bags. We can put them out if you guys want them. And really honestly think about if you want a dress or a skirt or whatever. We will be measuring over the course of the next 3 weeks. Hello. They're very busy over there with groups that are coming through that order stuff, so I need to let him know, in the next 3 weeks, because it's going to be, before you know it, we're going to be headed right back over there. So, okay, let's pray. Father, we thank you so much for your love for us, and we thank you for the Apostle Paul. We thank you for his words and his encouragement to us that we too can walk through life rejoicing because we have Jesus. And our circumstances sometimes are so hard. Lord, I have witnessed firsthand extreme suffering in Kenya, but Lord, I also see pure joy in those same faces that go home and have no food or no house or nowhere to lay their head, yet they are filled with a joy that can only come from you. Father, may we too focus only on you. May the joy of the Lord well up within us and bubble out no matter how we're living or where we're living or what we're going through. Lord, continue to grow us, continue to speak with us. Continue, Lord, to show us how we must walk in this life in order for others to see you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Wow.